Oscar Pistorius wasn't just an athlete, he was a miracle in motion. Born in 1986 in South Africa with a rare birth defect called fibular hemimelia, he was missing the fibula bones in both of his legs. At just 11 months old, his legs were amputated below the knee. For most people, this would mark the beginning of a difficult life. But for Oscar, it was only the beginning of an extraordinary journey. As a child, he didn't dwell on what he lacked. He adapted, learned to walk on prosthetic pegs, and began competing in sports like water polo, wrestling, and rugby. When a rugby injury forced him to rehabilitate, he discovered sprinting, and within months it became clear that he wasn't just fast. He was exceptional. His blade-like carbon fiber prosthetics, curved like the wings of a falcon, soon made headlines. In 2004, at just 17, he won gold at the Paralympics. But his greatest moment came in 2012, when he became the first double amputee to compete in the Olympic Games against able-bodied runners, representing South Africa. The world watched in awe. He was dubbed the Blade Runner, a nickname that symbolized hope, progress, and the unbreakable human spirit. If you believe in stories that inspire and challenge us to rethink what's possible, like this video and subscribe for more true stories that will move you. Behind every man of steel is a private life few ever see. For Oscar, that life included Reeva Steenkamp, a radiant, articulate, and deeply compassionate woman. Born in Cape Town, Reeva was more than just a model. She held a law degree, fought for women's rights, and was becoming a well-respected television personality. The two began dating in 2012, and from the outside, it looked like a power couple was forming. Oscar, the global sports icon. Reeva, the rising star with beauty and brains. But just a few months after the London Olympics, their seemingly perfect relationship would end in horror. On the early morning of Valentine's Day, 2013, Reeva was found dead inside Oscar's Pretoria home. She had been shot multiple times, through a locked toilet door. 4 shots were fired, 3 of them hit her body. She was just 29. The world, still in love with the Blade Runner's inspirational journey, now had to reckon with a chilling question. Had a hero become a killer? In just one night, Oscar Pistorius's name became tied not to courage, but to tragedy. The facts were undeniable. Oscar Pistorius pulled the trigger, but why he did it? That's where the story gets murky. When questioned, Pistorius didn't deny killing Reeva. He admitted to shooting through the bathroom door, but he insisted it was an accident. At his 2014 trial, he described being in bed when he heard a suspicious noise from the bathroom. In a state of panic, fearing an intruder had entered his home, he said he grabbed his gun from under the bed. Without his prosthetics on, he approached the bathroom on his stumps, feeling vulnerable, exposed, and terrified. According to him, the door to the toilet cubicle was closed, and when he heard another sound from inside, he fired 4 quick shots through the door. Only afterward, when Reeva didn't respond, did he realize the horrifying truth. She wasn't in bed. She was behind that door. He used a cricket bat to break it open, only to find her lying in a pool of blood. His defense argued that it was a tragic, heartbreaking case of mistaken identity, but the prosecution didn't believe a word of it. Prosecutor Jerry Nell wasn't there to sympathize. He was there to prove intent. Nell argued that the killing wasn't a mistake. It was cold-blooded murder. He claimed the couple had argued earlier that night and that Reeva had locked herself in the toilet to escape Pistorius's temper. Witnesses from neighboring homes reported hearing loud shouting. The bathroom's layout was small. Oscar knew someone was behind the door. Nell hammered Oscar with tough questions, calling him evasive, manipulative, and dishonest. "You refuse to take responsibility," Nell accused. "You are lying." The prosecution described a man used to control, not chaos, a man who had a gun ready beside his bed, a man who, in a fit of rage, acted violently. The courtroom was split. Some believed Oscar's fear was real, others saw it as a cover for murder. At the center of it all was a young woman, smart, kind, full of promise, now gone forever. Whether she died because of a mistake or a crime of passion became the question that would define the rest of Oscar Pistorius' life. After months of emotional testimony, tears, and televised trial coverage, Judge Thokozile Masipa delivered her verdict in September 2014. The world held its breath. Pistorius was acquitted of premeditated murder. Instead, he was convicted of culpable homicide, South Africa's version of manslaughter. The judge said Oscar's actions were reckless but lacked clear murderous intent. His sentence? 5 years in prison. To many, especially Reeva's supporters, it felt like a slap on the wrist. Activists condemned the verdict as a failure of justice for victims of gender-based violence. Social media erupted. Legal experts debated the flaws in South African law. Meanwhile, Oscar went to prison, not in chains, but with privilege and media attention. He was placed in a hospital wing, separated from most inmates. The man once celebrated for defying odds was now being accused of evading justice. Reeva's family, devastated, kept asking one question. If Oscar hadn't been famous, would the outcome have been different? But the story didn't end there. South African prosecutors weren't satisfied. They filed an appeal, arguing that Pistorius should have been convicted of murder, not manslaughter. In December 2015, the Supreme Court of Appeal agreed. They ruled that Pistorius's actions, firing 4 shots through a locked door, knowing someone was behind it, met the legal definition of murder. The previous verdict was overturned. In 2016, Judge Masipa resentenced him to 6 years in prison. But the outcry continued. Many believed the new sentence was still too light for the life lost. Prosecutors appealed again. This time, the highest court responded forcefully. In November 2017, the Supreme Court of Appeal increased his sentence to 15 years. With time served, Oscar now faced over a decade more behind bars. The fallen hero, once cheered in stadiums, would now serve his time in silence. Oscar Pistorius served his sentence at Atteridgeville Correctional Center. Inside, he kept a low profile. Reports say he found religion and led Bible study groups. He took anger management classes and worked in a green space program. Some inmates described him as reserved and helpful. Others said he remained arrogant. Meanwhile, outside prison walls, the world moved on. But Reeva's family couldn't. Her mother June and father Barry continued to speak publicly about their grief. They attended parole hearings, gave interviews, and advocated for women who had no voice. "He didn't just kill my daughter," Barry once said. "He destroyed our family." The man who once overcame the odds now faced the full weight of consequence. His gold medals meant nothing. His fame couldn't shield him. For Oscar Pistorius, life behind bars was a long reckoning. On January 5, 2024, after serving more than 10 years, Oscar Pistorius was released on parole. Under South African law, prisoners can be released after serving half of their sentence under specific conditions. But freedom didn't mean return to fame. Pistorius is now forbidden from leaving the Pretoria region without permission. He must complete community service, attend therapy on gender-based violence, and is banned from speaking to the media. No ankle monitor tracks him, but authorities say they're watching. He now lives with his uncle, Arnold Pistorius, in an upscale neighborhood of Waterkloof. The world's cameras are no longer interested. He walks streets where no one applauds. He eats dinner without interviews or endorsement deals. For a man who once symbolized triumph over adversity, every quiet step now echoes with guilt. While Pistorius walks free, Reeva Steenkamp's family continues to live a sentence of their own. Her father, Barry, died in 2023 at the age of 80, never fully healing from the trauma. Her mother, June, however, continues to advocate for justice and the rights of abuse victims. She said in a public statement after Pistorius's release, "There can never be justice if your loved one is never coming back." Though she stated she had found it in her heart to forgive Oscar, she has never forgotten. Reeva's legacy now lives through her mother's work, through awareness campaigns, and through the countless women whose stories mirror hers. A life that was filled with promise and compassion was reduced to headlines. But June insists, Reeva was more than a victim. She was a daughter, a role model, and a light extinguished too soon. Oscar Pistorius rose higher than most believed possible and fell harder than anyone imagined. He ran not only with speed but with symbolism, representing perseverance for millions. But all of that was shattered by one violent night. Whether it was a mistake or murder is something history will continue to debate. But what's undeniable is that a life was taken. A woman who laughed, dreamed, and loved was killed behind a locked door. And no amount of courtroom arguments or media debates can change that fact. Pistorius's legacy now sits in the shadow of tragedy. His story is a warning about fame, ego, and unchecked emotion. It is a story about how quickly everything can collapse. And most of all, it is a story about Reeva, about remembering her not just as a victim, but as a person. May her story never be forgotten.